Hello. You may have seen the video by Casey Neistat where he talks to his bearded self. Now, since this is a dual language YouTube channel, I have decided to steal this idea to be able to talk to myself in two languages. And in this video, I will show you how you do that, how you clone yourself on video. When I made my video, I made some really bad mistakes. There are some points that you really should pay attention to if you try the same thing. The first of them is get your camera settings right. We are going to combine two separate shots into one. We should not let the camera decide anything on its own, so we set everything to manual. We turn off the autofocus so that it won't start twisting the lens in one half of the picture. And we also set aperture and shutter speed to manual so that the automatic won't start adjusting the brightness in one half. Both happened in my video. Then we put the camera on a tripod and make sure that nothing in the picture can move even a millimeter. In my case, that's at least one thing that has worked, mostly. I wanted to appear once with a beard and once shaved, so I shot the bearded flocks first. That is simply because shaving is a lot faster than growing a beard. I had prepared a script, but I didn't really know it by heart. When I made breaks, I tried to speak in my mind what the other flocks would say at that time. Unfortunately, all the breaks turned out much too short, which would give me a hard time in editing, but we'll come to that later. So, tip number 2 is get the timing right. If we want both clones to handle the same object, the one who handles the object first in the video has to be shot first. So the bearded flocks had to introduce the camera dolly. When I was done with the bearded flocks, I shaved and changed my shirt, and then I started the second shot. The camera dolly that later in the video would be placed on the table by the bearded flocks was already in position, of course. So I had to be very careful not to get behind it. When everything is shot, we get editing. I have used Final Cut Pro, but the procedure should be very similar with any other video editing software. In the timeline, we place both shots on top of each other. Then a mask will be applied to the top layer so that the camera dolly and the right part of the picture are masked out. In Final Cut I have used a combination of form mask and draw mask. The more feathered the mask, the less obvious it is, but around the dolly I didn't have enough space. Since the colors were quite different in the two shots due to the automatic of the camera, I decided to mask out the complete table. Now I discovered that the breaks were much too short, so I had to stretch them. I did that by making a cut before and after the break and adjusting the playback speed. Final Cut offers the retime function for that. A little retiming would have probably worked quite well, but I had to stretch the breaks so long that it started to look very unnatural, sadly. After the bearded flocks had put the dolly on the table, the mask had to be moved so that it would reveal the dolly in the shot with the shaved flocks. To do so, you set a keyframe at the beginning of the movement, move the mask, move the playhead to the point where the movement shall end, and set another keyframe. But since in my case I could not get the brightness right due to the automatic of the camera, again, moving the borderline across the picture looked pretty stupid. So I made the mask jump to the new position from one frame to the other. Unfortunately, the bearded flocks has waved his hand behind the dolly after that point of time. So tip number 3 is already know where you will mask when shooting. Only when I was shooting the shaved flocks, I had the idea to let the bearded flocks disappear. The bearded flocks had not known that, so he has walked out of the scene much too early. Therefore, I had to reduce his speed almost down to 0. I downloaded the explosion from a page named videezy.com and placed it over the bearded flux with the blend mode set to negative multiply. Okay, so I hope this helps you to avoid some of the terrible mistakes that I made. And I would be very glad if you click on the round subscribe thingy so that we meet again in the next week. Until then, goodbye.